Welcome back to RV News, the #1 channel where we break down everything you need to know about the Iraqi Dinar, the Vietnamese Dong, and the global reset that many are watching unfold with intensity. If you are new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and stay locked in, because we are bringing you fresh insights, deep dives, and up-to-the-minute reports on what could be one of the greatest wealth transfers in modern history. Today's episode is absolutely massive, because we are going to explore the stunning claims coming from Frank26, one of the most closely followed voices in the dinar community, who has dropped a shocking update suggesting that the Iraqi dinar could be pegged at a rate of $5.66 and the Vietnamese Dong at $4.78. These numbers have ignited both excitement and skepticism, and in this video, we are going to go through the context, the possible truth behind these numbers, the implications for currency holders, and what it all means for the unfolding revaluation process that many believe is right around the corner. For months now, speculation has been running wild. The Iraqi government under Prime Minister Soudani has been ramping up efforts to stabilize the economy, modernize banking, and root out corruption. Simultaneously, Vietnam has been implementing digital banking reforms, strengthening trade alliances, and expanding foreign reserves. These moves have not gone unnoticed, especially by analysts who study global financial realignments. But what caught everyone off guard was Frank26’s recent revelation. According to his report, conversations inside high-level circles have hinted at internal bank screens flashing rates of $5.66 for the Iraqi Dinar and $4.78 for the Vietnamese Dong. If true, these figures would place both currencies among the most powerful in the world, rivaling the Kuwaiti dinar and Swiss franc, and reshaping the entire financial order of the Middle East and Asia. The first thing to understand is why such high numbers are even being discussed. Iraq is sitting on some of the largest proven oil reserves in the world, with untapped potential that could place it at the center of global energy markets for decades to come. In addition, Iraq is working hard to rebuild its economy after years of war, sanctions, and political instability. Revaluing its currency is seen by many as the key step to reasserting national sovereignty, attracting foreign investment, and creating wealth for its citizens. For Vietnam, the equation is slightly different, but equally powerful. Vietnam has transformed itself into a manufacturing hub, competing directly with China in electronics, textiles, and exports. Its economy has been expanding steadily, and with more companies relocating operations to Vietnam, the country's financial position has strengthened dramatically. A revaluation of the Dong at such levels would send shockwaves through the global trade system, recalibrating balances and pushing Vietnam into a tier of wealth and power not seen in its modern history. Frank26’s numbers have sparked countless debates. Some argue that $5.66 and $4.78 are not realistic in the short term, but they might represent contract rates or special arrangements offered under certain conditions at redemption centers or through select financial institutions. Others believe that these rates could be linked to asset-backed agreements, with oil, gold, and other resources serving as the foundation for the valuation. Regardless, the possibility of such rates being revealed, even behind closed doors, has given holders of dinar and dong renewed confidence that the long-awaited RV could be unfolding sooner than many expected. We also need to take into account the geopolitical environment. The US has a major interest in Iraq's stability, not only for energy security, but also for regional influence. Major American banks and institutions are reportedly on standby, watching the developments carefully, as any sudden adjustment in Iraq's currency value could trigger enormous inflows of capital and economic opportunities. For Vietnam, the US has already strengthened ties as part of its strategy to counterbalance China. Elevating the Dong's value could align with US interests in supporting Vietnam as a growing economic partner, providing leverage in trade negotiations and regional dynamics. This is why many in the RV community believe these two currencies are not just random outliers, but central players in a much bigger plan that could lead to a global realignment of wealth. Imagine for a moment what these numbers mean for everyday holders. A single 25,000 Iraqi dinar note, which today might only be worth around $20, would suddenly hold a value of over $141,500 at $5.66 per D. A million Vietnamese Dong, worth less than $50 at current rates, would instantly become $4.78 million if the rate Frank26 is referencing were to hold. These life-changing figures are what keep so many people closely following every update, every news clip, and every rumor. But with such transformative potential comes the need for caution, discipline, and awareness. Not all information circulating in this space is reliable, and there are many who spread exaggerated claims for clicks or attention. That is why here on RV News, we always strive to filter through the noise, highlight credible sources, and give you a balanced perspective. It's also crucial to look at how Iraq itself is preparing. In the past few months, the Central Bank of Iraq has been tightening control over currency auctions, cutting down on dollar smuggling, and aligning more closely with international financial standards. The government has also been implementing anti-corruption campaigns, bringing officials to trial, and pushing reforms that the International Monetary Fund and World Bank have been demanding for years. These are not random actions, they are part of the structural foundation needed to justify a stronger currency. A country cannot just declare a high value for its currency without having the infrastructure, reserves, and credibility to support it. Iraq's moves are clearly signaling that they are serious about reaching a new economic stage. Vietnam, too, has been quietly aligning its systems with international standards. Their push toward a digital economy, new trade agreements with the European Union, and participation in regional partnerships all point toward a nation positioning itself for a stronger global role. The Vietnamese Dong has long been undervalued, and economists have often pointed out that if Vietnam continues on its growth trajectory, a currency adjustment is inevitable. The question has always been when and by how much. Frank26’s update suggests that insiders may already have visibility into how high the valuation could go. Skeptics argue that rates like $5.66 and $4.78 are far too aggressive, that no country would risk such a leap without catastrophic consequences for their trade balances. They point out that reevaluations typically happen gradually to avoid economic shock. However, proponents counter that this is not an ordinary situation. They argue that what we are witnessing is part of a carefully orchestrated global reset, where currencies are being realigned to asset-backed values, and therefore, such jumps are not only possible but necessary. If the US dollar is to transition away from fiat dominance, it needs other currencies to rise and balance the equation. That is why Iraq and Vietnam are often seen as first movers in this process. Let's also talk about the psychological factor. The Dinar and Dong community has endured years of delays, rumors, and disappointments. Each time an update surfaces, emotions run high, expectations soar, and people either double down on their belief or walk away in frustration. Frank26 has been one of the few consistent voices, providing updates based on his sources, and while not everything he has reported has come to pass exactly as stated, he remains widely followed because of the credibility he has built over time. His claim about $5.66 and $4.78 is one of the most stunning updates yet, and regardless of whether it manifests exactly as stated, it has injected fresh energy into the discussion and forced people to reassess what is truly possible. To understand why banks might already be showing such numbers, we need to consider the concept of backscreen rates. Many in this community believe that banks have internal systems where future exchange rates are loaded in preparation for activation. These rates are not visible to the public but can be accessed by certain insiders. If true, then seeing $5.66 and $4.78 internally could mean the system is preparing to launch at those levels, even if the public announcement has not yet been made. This would align with the reports we've been hearing about redemption centers being staffed, non-disclosure agreements being prepared, and contracts being readied for early participants. The infrastructure for a massive revaluation does not happen overnight. It requires months or even years of preparation, and the evidence suggests that preparation is well underway. Another dimension we cannot ignore is the role of oil-backed contracts. There are long-standing rumors that certain exchange rates will be tied directly to oil credits, with countries like Iraq offering higher rates to those who participate in rebuilding efforts or purchasing oil under specific agreements. This could explain why numbers as high as $5.66 are being discussed. It may not be the general market rate, but a specialized rate tied to strategic deals. Similarly, Vietnam could leverage its manufacturing and export strength to secure contracts that justify a $4.78 rate under certain conditions. In this sense, the numbers reported by Frank26 could represent the